just hit the throttle in my Tesla Model Y Performance, and the instant torque and speed will definitely give you tunnel vision. To make you understand, it goes from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 3.5 seconds. That is insanely quick. You know, the other day I was driving with full self-driving. We're approaching a bike lane, and all of a sudden the car slams on the brakes. Apparently, it had spotted a cyclist that I had not even seen yet. And that was when FSD went from interesting concept to this is actually real for me. These are two of the moments that made me realize this car is going to surprise me a lot more than I expected. Hi guys, I'm EB. This is EB's Lens, and this is my honest, no hype take on EV life, starting with my Model Y. Okay, so quick intro before we get into it. Since this is my first video on the channel, I am not a car reviewer, I am not sponsored by anyone. I'm just a regular guy that made the switch from a regular gas car to an electric one. And so this channel would follow my real ownership experience and would probably eventually grow beyond Teslas into EVs and tech in general. But first, let's start from where I actually am. First impressions of a Model Y owner. So why did I consider an EV? It all just started with curiosity, to be honest. At the time, I was driving a manual transmission car, which, as you know, has 3 pedals, right? And I started to learn about EVs and how a lot of them have regenerative braking, which pretty much means that you can drive around with just a single pedal. So I went ahead and test drove one, and it was a completely different world. No clutch, no gear shifting, just one pedal doing almost everything through regenerative braking. Then adding the instant torque the second you touch the throttle, plus the idea of just charging at home and never needing to go to a gas station. All of those things pulled me in. Why Tesla specifically? Well, I had been following Tesla news for a long time before I ever bought one, mostly because I was fascinated by full self-driving. The idea that a car could actually drive itself just seemed incredible to me. Then I had watched a ton of YouTube videos about it and couldn't wait to try it myself. It wasn't even available here in the Netherlands for the longest time. That only changed a few months ago, right? And I would actually get into that properly in a future video because it deserves its own conversation. But even without FSD being approved here yet, there were still enough features that made me want to get a Tesla, especially the 2026 Model Y, which is this one that I have, the Juniper Refresh. I really love the exterior design, the minimalist interior, and I know this is not for everybody. Some people don't like this. In fact, this is the reason why some people would not get a Tesla. But for me, I don't mind it. I actually love it. And yeah, that just sealed it for me. The moment I saw the white seats and the red exterior, it was just a total beauty to me. So why the Model Y over other Tesla models? Honestly, the choice was pretty simple for me. So Tesla has only 5 models, right? They have the S, the 3, the X, the Y, and the Cybertruck. And I wanted something SUV shaped, which ruled out 3 of those options for me, leaving me with only the Model X and the Model Y. And I did consider the Model X. I really like the Falcon wing doors and the display in front of the driver, which this one does not have, by the way. But the X is also bigger than the Model Y, and I did not need the extra space. Plus, it's a lot more expensive. And at the time, it hadn't had any recent refresh like this one did, because this is the 2026 Juniper Refresh. So the Model Y just seemed like the more sensible. It made the most sense, pretty much. Did I have any hesitations before buying? Definitely. I thought about whether I should go fully electric or ease in with a plug-in hybrid. I thought about what happens if I need to drive somewhere really far, which is not a problem, by the way, and I can go into that in a future video. I thought about if I should consider other brands, and I actually did. I went and test drove a bunch of alternatives, and for whatever reason, I just never felt as excited getting into any of them as I do every single time I get into my Tesla. Okay, so first surprises. The first one for me would be the overall driving experience. So you immediately notice the speed, the instant torque the moment you hit the throttle. But what is also interesting, or what was surprising, was also how steady it is on the road. And that's because the Model Y Performance has adaptive suspension, which essentially is a software controlled chassis system. And in simple terms, that just means you get a smoother ride. The problem with that though is you do not realize you're speeding until it is too late. For the first time since I've been driving, I got a speeding ticket, and that's because I was driving this car. So I'm warning you, you will get a speeding ticket. And then when you add FSD on top of that, it just makes the experience a lot more surprising. Surprise 2. The car protects itself from heat. This was another surprise for me. So during a recent heat wave here in the Netherlands, I walked up to my car and I noticed the AC was running. And then I was thinking to myself, did I leave the car on? But then that's not even possible, because the moment you step out of the car and walk away, the car just shuts off automatically. So it turns out that, and this is a setting in the menu, once the interior temperature goes above a certain limit, the car just turns on the AC. And it does that mainly to protect the interior, like the seats and whatever else it is protecting. This is a setting you can, of course, turn off if you don't like it. But personally, I just like that it does that on its own. Surprise 3, and I really like this one. It was the fact that the car looked out for me before I even opened the door. So one time I wanted to open the door, and then I pressed the button to open the door, but the car does not open. But I immediately hear a sound. So I looked at the infotainment system, because this is where you see everything that's happening in the car. And I see a message that says, car opening prevented, check surrounding. And this was because a car was coming, the car was approaching, and then the car just prevented me from opening the door, which is really good, because a lot of people don't even check before they open the door. I wasn't going to open the door fully, because usually what I do is I open the door a bit, check my mirrors, and then if no car is coming, then I just open the door fully. But I just really like the fact that it did not even allow me to open the door in the first place because the car was coming. Surprise 4, that would be charging. Charging has been way easier than I expected. Now that I actually own an EV, I'm noticing a lot of charging spots everywhere, way more than I ever clocked before owning one. And with home charging set up, honestly, it's not something I have to think about day to day. So if any of this surprised you too, or you already know when I am going to run into, please drop it in the comments. I would like to know what's coming. What I am still figuring out. I am honestly still new to this, so there's plenty I haven't tested yet, e.g. range on longer road trips, and then all the different settings that are buried in the menu, and a few other things that I want to actually live with before I talk about them properly. I'll be covering all of that in future videos as I go. So this is really just the beginning. If you are curious about EV life, or you're thinking about getting a Tesla yourself, or you just want to follow along as I figure all of this out, subscribe and let's get on this journey together, and I'll see you in the next one.